Hello, everyone. In this episode of Leader Talks, I have the privilege of talking to Barath Ram Gopalan, who is the Senior Vice President of the Cloud Service Line at Virtusa. Welcome, Barath. Glad to have you on the show.
Hey, good morning, Diksha. Good morning, everybody. My name is Bharat, and I head the cloud service line at Virtusa, and I'm a senior vice president at Virtusa operating out of Bangalore.
I will be talking to Barath on Virtusa's own journey to the cloud, how the company is using the learnings from this to streamline their customers' cloud experience. And we will also explore some trends that are likely to come out about in the near future. But before we begin, here's a brief introduction to Bharat. Bharat has over 28 years of experience in the technology industry and brings extensive expertise and a strong track record of success. Throughout his career, Bharat has excelled in various technology roles. He has been instrumental in building cloud products across Fabric as a Service and Infrastructure as a Service for a leading technology company. Additionally, he played a key role in developing a private cloud for an investment banking firm. Prior to joining Virtusa, Bharat led the successful implementation of a greenfield commercial card issuer platform on AWS for the firm. His key skills lie in his strong technical acumen and his ability to drive innovation. As a leader, Bharat fosters an innovation culture that is transparent and where ideas freely bubble up. He promotes a flat leadership style where every team member's ideas are equally important and ensures that the best solutions are derived from collaborative efforts. Just to add one more point, Virtusa is also winner of nasscom's Enterprise Cloud Adoption Awards. So congratulations, Bharat, on that.
Thank you, Diksha.
So my first question, Bharat, is to walk us through your own cloud journey as a technology company. I wanted to understand how your experience has been either different or better from the cloud journeys that your customers experience.
So one of the things which we have done is that we are one of the early adopters to cloud, and we had done this prior to the COVID, and at least 2, 3 years ahead of COVID, where we have moved out all of our out of our data centers, and we were actually on the major cloud providers by that time. Okay, so we had the infrastructure and the capability to be in place when COVID hit us. Most of us were struggling to get to work from home and starting to do the remote working, whereas Virtusa was at an advantageous position where because of the early cloud adoption, we were able to get to turn the cards overnight and actually start working from home with a lot of ease. And we had to specifically work on few accounts where like banks where we had to be on the floor, moving them out from a secure environment and providing the same security as people are working from the personal devices or from the company provided devices or client provided devices. How do we want to ensure the same level of security was the only challenge that we had to go through. And when people started working from home, the risk was actually provided across all around the globe because endpoint devices are no longer in a restricted area. The endpoint devices are pretty spread around the user buildings, their homes, you don't know whether they are in a cafeteria, which internet Wi-Fi they are coming through. But so we had to strengthen our endpoint security at the last mile. But beyond that, we didn't have to do much of the things. And even our IT, because we were in the cloud, was able to work through the chat, was able to work remotely and still give us the continuity of working through the pandemic. And this, I say, would be the greatest advantage of the early mover advantage. And we were able to meet the uncertainties of the market in the right way and also in style. We came out in style, and this proved us that this is one of the best DRs for DR testing for our infrastructure and IT capability, but not from a humanitarian perspective. But it really worked well for us. That's what I would love to call out here on our cloud adoption, and one being the early adopter, being able to do and manage the whole pandemic with ease is what I would call as a great success for what Virtusa did from the IT perspective.
This is a public, private, or hybrid setting, or is it single cloud, multi-cloud? Any?
So we are a multi-cloud operator. So we use cloud by choice, right? So for example, our application division, like our data warehouse is on Azure, our AD is on Azure. We pick and choose the best services that we want from each of the cloud, and we operate in that model. So when we look at clouds, we pick and choose the type of clouds. Our workspaces are on Azure. Our workspaces are on AWS, and we use GCP for some of the data capabilities. So, in short, we are equally spread on three clouds. And the reason for this is we also have certain accelerators and solutions which we deploy on all the three cloud. And we are in the marketplace of all the three public cloud players, and these marketplaces actually advertise our industry solutions, and these industry and domain solutions are present in all the three clouds. So based on our operations and depending upon our customer geography, preferences, it's mandate that we better be on three clouds, and we use this, our IT spread as the playing ground for us to practice and have the capability build out in all the three clouds. That's our strategy for being multi-cloud.
Okay. And what did it take you to shift to cloud, Bharat? In the sense, I want you to focus on some of the nitty-gritty, right? For example, whenever the cloud migration happens, organizations have to deal with a mix of legacy systems, modern systems, what to do with the apps, how do you migrate everything safely to the cloud, how do you migrate data, uh, those kind of things. They talk about cloud readiness index, right? First, when you're planning, you do your cloud readiness index, you understand your IT sprawl, etc. So can you just give us some insights into how you went about doing it? What were some of the challenges that you faced, and what went well or what didn't go well?
So in our case, we were a young company. We are about 25, 30 years into the industry, and therefore we are relatively young. Okay. So we didn't have the legacy of a mainframe or things like that, but we had architectures which were slightly, not to the current model, because it originated from the older era of 90s. So therefore, what our stack was not old enough to call it legacy, but our stack was not new enough to call it modern. So, we did a lift and shift of most of the components of our, existing infrastructure. And over the last 5 years, we have been focusing on automating and modernizing it, right? With the cloud offering a lot of pay-per-use facility, and pay-per-use is a culture change and also mind shift change. So we are working through that culture and mind shift while we are looking at technology modernization, where, for example, we have license optimized and got everything into .NET Core rather than being only on Windows, right? So things like this we have done so that we are evolving on our modern journey, and we want to get to a level where the services are available on a serverless fashion rather than a continuous fashion, so that on the first invocation, whenever a system is getting used, the services spin up and they respond. And if you see idle time, it actually goes back to stop state and then restarts that way. I don't think all of our applications are in this phase, but we are more or less there in this journey of adopting to the pay-per-use model and moving away from the license model to the pay-per-use model. And this journey is continuously evolving.
So I want to stay with that point where you talk about the pay-per-use model. Um, so would it be correct to say that now you are nearly 100% on cloud?
We are 100% on cloud, but the modernization of the application,
I
how
am.
much are we there is a
Yeah.
journey, and it keeps evolving. And we seem to catch up with things which is happening in the market, but actually technology advances and when you're on a container, Fargate comes in and when you're on a Fargate, something new comes in, and therefore this catch up for the whole estate has
correct.
never happened. And we are at different phases of maturity on different product lines. And this is not only for us. This statement is true for all customers who are adopting to the cloud. Keeping pace with the technology that is evolving in the cloud is one of the challenges that most of the enterprise customers face or CAOs face as an nightmare.
Absolutely, that I agree with. But couple of questions from a cost perspective, right? One of the things that we hear end user enterprise or any enterprise that we talk to from a cloud migration journey, they talk about cloud optimization from controlling costs in the cloud. That is one of the key things that every company is trying to do, and they want to kind of get a hold of how best to do it, right? So I wanted your views on how you go about doing that. That was one. And the related question was on, now that you have moved to cloud, what kind of ROI are you seeing, and not necessarily from the numbers perspective?
So I'll take the first question. So, when we migrated into the cloud, uh, cloud adoption for majority of the estates was very easy. Right? But the interesting thing is we are a multi-geo, multi-country presence person. And what happened is there were a lot of accounts which were shadow IT accounts. And these accounts are not part of the overall enterprise umbrella, and they were not going through the compliance of the mandates of the organization. Right. So considering these two, the interesting thing is we eliminated the shadow IT and we wanted to take the advantage of the enterprise, agreements that we have with accounts. And that was itself a challenge, and identifying all the, shadow IT accounts, removing them, making it part of the enterprise, either migrating them out and putting them through the standard landing zone guardrails, as well as the security policies and compliance that we want to emphasize on was an interesting challenge, and that was a big, for any company which goes through this is one of the major challenges, and we were not alone in this space, right? So that's one of the things. Now, as we did this, we also wanted to practice economics, cloud economics as a architectural design principle rather than optimizing the post deployment conversation, right? So one of the things as we onboard and we have certain set of guidelines, but we practice a lift and shift as the first model and then automate and modernize where our automation pipeline is used for the common one is used for the deployment of any of the shadow IT assets and stuff like that. So in order to keep the whole thing is while business is continuously wanting all these services, we have done it at a pace which is actually not disturbing the motions of business, but actually converting them as on a cyclic basis through the maintenance windows and stuff like that, which helps us get to the consistent and standard model and overall keeping the governance and the compliance angle and the audit regulations that we have so that getting the standardized model across the multi-cloud, across the portfolio is one of the challenges. And on top of it, looking at the, cost sharing, which is actually, allocation of cost, seamlessness. It's not that we have not had challenges, we have had challenges with these, but we are at a level where all this is streamlined so that we have the right tagging of resources, we have the right tagging of project code allocations and whatnot, which has helped us to get to a level where we are now on a centralized, agreement with the CSPs, and therefore we know how to cost allocate among ourselves and still reap the benefits in a secure and a safe environment. That journey from where we started to actually to be here is a great achievement, and this achievement is not without having a security score or a BitSight score of 810 for the last 4+ years is a credential is credentializing the journey and actually saying that how compliant and how secure are we for various from a regulation, compliance, and also from a customer perspective.
Talked about dealing with some legacy applications. Maybe you didn't have any hardware that was legacy, but upgrading or modernizing your apps or some of your systems. You spoke about security. You spoke about cloud economics. One point that I want to understand from you a little more is the whole aspect of documentation. It's a very crucial part of any technology process. Uh, and as what is the kind of documentation that you followed or the best practices that you followed during your migration, which will
So,
help end users also follow similar practices?
so migration the first migration, which is to the, what do you say, the cloud, is more process oriented and it was documented mostly as best practices. But over time, what we have done is we have infrastructure code, policy as code, lot of documentation has become as code, okay, security as code, and so on, right? So when we say security as code, we have a tool where we actually define all our policies, which are actually the security policies that has been defined, and these run on a periodic basis and show you a dashboard of all the violations that are there. And we actually start looking at it and fixing it in that form. We also have the same security model as you deploy and provision resources. These security criteria are validated even before a resource is deployed, right? So we have the runtime security, we have the pre-checks so that everything is as code. And therefore, since everything is as code, you get to keep updating this on a version basis. And then this version one is kind of a pattern, which we take it and say that this pattern can be applied in different accounts that we create or different environments that we create. And of course, it needs a tweaking, which is to align with the compliance and the regulatory requirements of the end user. Okay, so for example, if you win a finance customer or a healthcare customer, the security and regulatory requirements required for hosting an end user environment for these two are very different. And therefore, the last mile tweaking is necessary. But a lot of code and best practices, a lot of documentation, we have switched out to code, and IAC, PAC, and security as code is helping us keep this documentation more relevant. And what happens is you only have to document. There is a process of which to run, what to run, and what is there inside the code is for everybody to read and understand. And it is fairly easy because you have any infrastructure as code has document capabilities and generating of documents, because today document generation for code is very easily available, whether it is Java, whether it is Terraform, all these are available. So we use that capability and a lot of it is maintained as code. There is a small set of runbooks which is available as a set of runbooks, which is more best practices for our operational aspects of IT, but that is very limited to the operational aspects, not the execution aspects of things.
I think we can go on talking about it. It's a very interesting topic. But coming to your learnings, because you're a service provider also, Bharat, right?
Mm.
I wanted to understand a couple of things. One is, as a technology company, as a company that helps customers with their own cloud migration, right? The expectation is that you would have done a near perfect job. So I wanted to understand how true that is, and what are some of the what are the key things that went well, and why did they go well, and what are the key things that sort of came as a, if I can say, an unpleasant surprise for you, and that you had to overcome.
Sure. So I'll take the first part. So when you look at what do we learn, there's learning in two forms. Okay. So one, what do we learn from our cloud migrations, internal cloud migrations, and what do we learn from customers and bring it back here, right? So these two aspects are there. And one of the things which we take it from, see, most of our offerings to the customers, which is either cloud migration, modernization, or managed services, is built on the philosophies that we practice, right? So some of the patterns that we use in there, for example, a landing zone, the template for landing zone came out from here because we have templates for all the three clouds. And we now know if we want to do the mobilized phase for any of the customers, the basics come out of this, right? Now, is this without any tweaking? It's a template and a pattern as code, but it always requires tweaking to the customer environment when we do landing zones, right? The second aspect is our managed service is the same IT that we operational form that we operate to our customers. This is a place where we do a lot of collaboration with our internal IT as well as the managed services part, where we are able to leverage what we see in the customer space back to the IT, and as well as what we see in the IT take it to the customer space. And for example, the automation that we have done is always a referenceable model, and the code that we have as policy as code and security as code is referenceable when we want to do it there, right? So when we are looking at SIEM, user entity management, behavior management, or SOAR, these are practices which we actually built in internal IT, and we also look at what we are doing with the customer and we cross collaborate in this spaces is the biggest win which we have. Now, there is one aspect of accelerators where Virtusa keeps building a lot of these accelerators, and IT has been one of the places where we actually practice, using these accelerators, and they help us actually frame and get the product quality or accelerator quality to a good level, where that level ensures the adoption inside customers or making the deals happen in some forms, and giving us the differentiator when we go in for the customer base, right? Now, with respect to learnings, I think I talked about two things. One is the removing of the shadow IT and getting it all to the level where we can actually get it to the what do I say, the enterprise agreement, and we can operate at scale with each of the vendors, each of the CSPs. That's a big learning, and it's not easy to happen. And the second one is, if the reason because everybody wants to control the environment. When I give the control plane to somebody and I only keep the data plane with me, it's not a feeling that everybody is happy of, and getting to that mindset and leaving the control plane with the central team and the monitoring plane with the central team was itself a challenge. Now, one other thing which we would look at is a lot of our assets were mostly, see, when you're moving to pay-per-use, idle times also count for your consumption. So the biggest challenge is the unpleasant or the pleasant learning is how do you get to, just by getting rid of idle time, how much can you save? Is you can't express this pleasantness because the quantity of saving just to get to the idle time and the usage pattern, analyzing the usage pattern and shifting to a model that you only spin it up when you are in use is a great advantage. And we have gone to a level where we have automated the spin up mostly on the first hit, right? So there are applications which are only needed for 5 days a week, but in the past we have been running it for 24/7, right? Other than the maintenance windows. Now in cloud, we have a model where if there is not much of traffic, no resources being utilized is a key advantage of how cloud looks at pay-per-use. And this is a journey. We are there. We are almost there, but not there. And this journey will continue to evolve, is my thinking. And while CSPs have been reducing what do they mean by utilize idle time? They are trying to shrink it to few IP misses on the first invocation. So this journey will continue to happen both in the form of innovation at the CSP side and also from the end user side. And this when it meets the ideal model will be the euphoria for everybody.
Great. Thank you for that. I think very useful pieces of information that I'm getting from you. You spoke about learning from your customers' experience and bringing the best practices back into Virtusa, right? But you're also, like I said, servicing your customer. So can you give us some examples of your customer journeys where you felt that it was an almost ideal um, migration story?
Yes, we have been with multiple of them. We have been with a large media enterprise in the in the world, where we have been through their whole what do you say, the cloud transformation journey, where we have started with a data center exit, we're getting them out of the data center and moving them all into the cloud. And post that, we have actually had multiple you know phases of modern journey, where we have looked at one phase of automation, that post a lift and shift, we have looked at optimizing the lift and shift cost. Post the cost optimization, we have looked at utilization optimization, which when I said optimization, it's more from a FinOps angle of this optimization. And post that, we have looked at automating everything and being able to be resilient and redundant, so that you can click at a button, you can actually go and provision all of this on a new data center, new cloud center, data center, public cloud data center, or a region, I should call it, and then being able to service customers from there, right? And we are now on to a journey where we are actually getting them out of we have done a license cost optimization for them. And post that, we are doing application modernization, which is actually helping them to get onto a latest and greatest technology, where therefore we are minimizing your ARR, and you are actually being more innovative and accelerate the innovation if possible. And in all of this, the transformation journey is giving the business agility that the customer is requiring to operate in the cloud. And this journey, this transformation journey, is not a single day or a overnight win. It's actually a multi-year journey, where we have been through with the customer, looking at phases of one and planning the roadmap and making all of this happen. And just like our journey, we are in this journey also, we are almost there at the fourth or fifth year of working with them, and the transformation is evolving from, now that we are at a business agile phase, what next kind of argument conversation is what we are having with the customer, and what next brings in what's new in the cloud provider, and how can we adopt the newer technologies and newer paradigms which are coming in, which will make the business much more agile.
So I want to come to the end of our conversation. You mentioned about what next, right? So I want to know your views, do some crystal ball gazing, and tell me or tell the audience, what do you see panning out in the next, say, 2, 3 years in the cloud space? What are some of the trends that you see emerging?
So one of the key challenges, right, when you're adopting the cloud, are you future-proofing your architecture, either from a security posture or from a technology posture, has been a challenge, right? So when we look at application modernization, and the moment you have done the application modernization, which is nothing less than a 12 to 18-month journey, and having completed that, is it future-proof, is always a question. Now, one of the learnings that we have is you can future-proof based on the target state that you want, because technology keeps evolving, and as you complete one phase, you're not going to get the next technology advancement that is out there, right? But you will have to look at it and see that what is good for you and how future-proof you want before you redo it again, right? And this is a philosophy which is true for both applications as well as data. And data has been evolving at a very constant pace. And when data is evolving at a constant pace, you can see paradigms of different data marts and data warehouses which are there. And what we called as something which is current is falling into the legacy bucket within no time, right? So this challenge is always there. And therefore, when you look at it, one of the challenges is to look at what is needed from a target state for the customer, and evaluating that and future proofing is one of the challenges that we see. And therefore, the choice points that you make of picking and choosing the services that you want for the customer is relevant for the future proofing that you did in the start of the design phase. you can course correct it at some level, but you cannot go and change it at the fancy of how things are evolving. However, said that there is a certain aspects of artificial intelligence and machine learning which is coming in, which is leading to the Gen AI, and there is too much happening in that space, and integrating intelligence into your business is becoming one of the key success criteria. And there are spaces where you'll have to be very open about it, and there are spaces where you'll have to be conservative about it. So when you're doing a modernization, you'll have to be conservative in your data platform, in your app platforms, but you got to be very open in the innovative aspects of your emerging technologies, which is in the space of artificial intelligence, generative AI, large language models, and whatnot, so that you should have the capability to boost your intelligence levels based on these emerging technologies is what we practice and what we follow. I hope this gave you the trend of what we are observing with, based on our both internal cloud practice as well as with customers, because this is one of the key differentiators that we bring to the table with our engineering first mindset, where the engineering first mindset is primarily to look at how we can actually do the collaboration for various aspects of emerging technologies, as well as the engineering first mindset on how we engineer the modernization platforms for both data and app.
See, Bharat, given me a lot of food for thought, to be honest. A lot of points that you mentioned is something that I can take up and explore deeper in the programs that we do under the Cloud Advocacy program. So thank you so much for that. And I will, read some of our relevant cloud reports in the description box. So my request to the audience is that you can go through it, download it. Most of these reports are free for you to read. And Bharat, thank you once again. It was great pleasure talking to you. You covered your own journey. You covered how customers' journey is panning out, and also gave us an idea of what are some of the trends that we are likely to see in the future in the cloud space. So thank you once again, and
Thank
look
you,
forward to
Diksha.
working with you.
Thanks, Diksha. Thanks for the opportunity. It was a great pleasure working with you and nasscom. And thanks for getting us onto the award, nominated for the award, and good that we won it. And it's a proud moment for us from Virtusa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.